Ina?
Perfect. Yes. Yeah, I would like to start by welcoming everybody. It's so lovely to see you all here. Yeah, this all started because I really love this community, and recently I found that everybody was getting together and talking about seeds growing, everybody having their own vegetable gardens, people talking about, you know, what seeds are you growing and how far are the seedlings, and I really love these discussions. And I was talking about it with Marjolein, who is my friend living in Middelburg in the Netherlands. And she is teaching gardening to clients all over the world. And so then she offered to give a seminar about soil health. And I thought that would be perfect because there's so many of us starting a garden, or some even experts in gardening. And I thought this would be perfect for our community. So introducing Marjolein. So I think I already wrote it in the email. She got a master's in gardening. I'm not sure if it was vegetable gardening or community gardening. Yeah.
Yeah, community gardening and vegetable gardening. Yeah.
And so she's teaching gardening to clients all over the world, basically to eat from their own garden, right, all year round.
That's the
And
goal.
yeah, so I think that Marjolein can speak to that a lot better, but she's an expert in all things gardening. Oh, there's Susan coming. Hi.
Hi, and Beth just dropped in. So just some logistics for the people who just joined. If you don't want to be on video, you can just click away your own video. That's fine for us, because maybe if the recording will be good enough, it will be really nice for me and for Ina to share it amongst our groups, because it will be a health topic in general. Of course, Ina is the best on health and I'm the best on soil health. So it would be really lovely if we can share it. If you have any problems with it, just let us know and then click away your video if you want to, no problem. Then it will be shared on social media, and because this will be a full class for you. So it's not something to sell you on. It won't be, how do you say it? It won't be really general. It will be really specific. So I think that will be fun to share that. And then,
do you want to just go downstairs? I can't get up quick enough. I say, come in here then. Come in here then. Come in here then.
Okay. Let's see who I can mute. So everybody who are just joining, I mute everyone except for Ina once in a while, because she will be our hostess. And if I hear people talk in the background, maybe that will be a little bit difficult for me to process the whole teachings. But at the end, we will have quite a bit of Q&A, because I think Q&A in every session is always the best part. So I leave a big chunk of time for Q&A. There will be very specific questions. So Ina, do you have any last words before we dive in?
I'm excited to learn more.
Me too.
Yeah, so I'll leave it up to you to say when it's a good time for questions, okay?
Yeah.
So you give your teaching, and then when it's time for questions, you let us know, okay?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So in the meantime, just a last bit of housekeeping, households. So if you want to say anything in between and you don't want to forget your questions, you can always pop them into the chat function that will be on the bottom of your screen. So then I won't look at them during my teachings. Sometimes I do, then I answer if it's really relevant, but at the end I will come back to that. So if you want to do that, that's totally okay. Feel free to do that. And in the end, I will unmute everyone and we just dive into all the goods. Excited? Is everybody ready? Yes. Yes, all thumbs up. Good. So does everyone have a pen and paper at hand? I think so. Susan, get the pen and paper. It's so fun to see all these videos. I love it. I love teaching you guys. It's fun for me. So just a little bit of an introduction. Ina really hosted me very well. Thank you so much, lovely friend. So my name is Marjolein Schuit. I am a master gardener, and I have a master's in garden history as well. And that's all, my research is all based on community gardening. So teaching for a group of you guys is like the cherry on top for me. It makes me so excited. And that's why I really wanted to teach this class for you. Because community building, community gardening, that really brings people together. And for my master's, I did 2 years of research on community gardens in Belgium. And I researched gardens from 1912 to 2012. So that's a long time. And I really looked into gardening plans in community gardens and why they were laid out that specific way. And it all has to do with community. So that's really fantastic. Next to it, I am a permaculture expert. So I did my permaculture design course last year, but I never mentioned permaculture because it gets really difficult if I say anything about permaculture. And I like teaching in a really simple manner. I don't like complicated people. I don't like complicated teachings. I want everybody to really follow me along. So if I talk about anything too sciencey, please grab my jacket and say, Marjolein, you're talking too fast. And on the hands of talking too fast, if I get really excited, and that's always about gardening, I talk really fast, and I am Dutch. So you hear a really excited mix of Dutch and English. And if you cannot follow it, that's why we have Q&A, that you can all ask a little bit more specific questions. So next to that, in my line of all great diplomas and everything that's really beautiful, I recently joined an organization that's called Kiss the Ground. And I teach classes like this about soil health. And I think soil health is the foundation of anything gardening. And everybody thinks it's the other way around. So we think about all the nice goody goods that we can eat out of our garden, but without soil health, we will be nowhere near the perfect tomatoes that a master gardener can grow. So therefore, whenever I teach VIP sessions, so normally I teach one-on-one, whenever I teach VIP sessions, the chunk of time will be about soil health. And I see eyes rolling when I say soil health because it sounds so complicated. It sounds like we have to do this whole process and 10 steps and maybe 100 steps. But it's actually really simple, and that's why I want to dive into this really juicy, gorgeous topic today with you. And for Kiss the Ground is an organization that supports farmers and agriculture. So I go into the fields and support my farmers to build better soil. And classes like this are actually an introduction into that stuff that I teach for big farms, for chefs, for any of my clients around the world. So it's really an honor to teach you what I'm really passionate about, and that's food, soil, and poop. All right, so I have some slides. I normally never teach with slides, but these are from Kiss the Ground, and I want to see if it helps on my teachings. But if I feel, okay, this is just lost cause, I will just dump them and talk with my own hand drawings. But they are really nice and the questions are really good. So I will share my screen. Okay, yeah. Let's see. And does that work? Yeah, that works. Good, good, good. It's here. Okay, let's see if this works. This is exciting, you guys. All right, so we really want to start our teachings with a really important statement. We cannot solve our problems with the same kind of thinking we used when creating them. Isn't that interesting? So if we think about our gardens, we tend to think that the problems that we're solving are just normal, like plant health, for example. If pests aside occur, we think, oh, well, that's gardening, it's normal, it's supposed to be this complicated, there's supposed to be problems in our garden, I need all kinds of things to fix these problems. But if we keep on thinking this way, we will never see the full picture of a healthy Earth. So I'm talking about planet Earth. If we keep on thinking, oh, well, that's just the way it is, then we are never seeing the full scope. So I think that's fundamental in what I'm teaching you today. I really want you to pop on a different kind of glasses with me and look at your garden in a different way. I'm really challenging you here. And that's what we're gonna do today. So today I'm using a little bit of complicated words, but then it's for you to do a little bit more research on these topics. If you want to, I'm really inviting you to hop into Google after this. And I'm gonna talk about you today about regenerative instead of sustainable. So regenerative instead of sustainable Earth. Planet Earth is our home. We don't live on Mars, so we have to do whatever we have. And our gardens are like a mini reflection of what's happening on Earth. So what is the difference? If we look at degenerative, so anything that declines is not a good sign. Any problems that we're facing in the world, any desertification, any floods, anything in that matter is never a good thing. We cannot accept what's happening. Sustainability, on the other hand, is something good, right? We like sustainability. It's a safe zone for us to think, okay, we got this. We know sustainability. If we just reuse whatever we have, it will be fine. We will just reuse resources, we recycle everything, so we're good to go. But that is all good. Like, I don't want you to not doing sustainability. What I want you to invite you is to think about the following. Sustainability, if you break down the word, it's actually sustain that what is. Sustain that what is. But why do we want to sustain something that's not healthy? Right? Why do we want to do that? Why do we accept that there are deserts? Why do we accept that there are pests in our garden? And why do we accept that our plants are sick? Let's think about that, okay? So regenerative is actually an upward spiral. And regenerative agriculture, that's what I actually teach next to permaculture, is an upward spiral. So we accept that's what's here and now, but then we go upwards. We improve on the situation, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So just to give you this slide, day one of an unhealthy soil will look like this. Do you see this gruesome picture here? Do we all see that? Yes? Okay. In 6 months, and so this is a picture of unhealthy soil. In 6 months, it will be the same. And in 3 years, it will be the same. So any bare soil in your gardens will be the same as an open wound. We will discuss why that is later on, but it's really important to look around and see if you have any bare soil in your gardens. That's the first indication of something is wrong in the system. I see a red point. There's a chat. I'm gonna look at it. Would you mind clicking on the slide so we can see the picture? Wonderful. Thank you so much for that comment. Whoa, like this. Let's see. Do we see it like this? Do you see it? The picture? So Ina, I just unmuted you. Oh, can you see the picture or?
I can only see the first slide.
Oh, okay, that's weird. Okay, that's why slides are never a good idea. Let's see. Like this?
Yeah, I see it. Oh, in the form that it is with the graphics on top of it? No, I can't. Sorry.
No? Okay. So I'm just gonna do it like this. So
you can make a choice, Martin. If they go to the top, they can choose how much of the screen they can see. So you become very small, and the whole
that's what I want.
Screen. That's what I have. So I have you as a tiny corner, and your whole presentation is all of my screen. So that's instead of gallery view, it's up there to choose.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ellie. Is that better
welcome.
for everyone?
I do have everybody as a small block, but the presentation still shows the first slide. And
okay, so this is better, I think, right? Do you now see?
Slide 4?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, wonderful. I think this is better. So we don't have a fancy presentation. We just do whatever we have. So I will go back to this slide. So we see degenerative as a downwards going arrow, right? We see sustainability as a circle with arrows, a very familiar symbol. And then we see regenerative as an upwards going arrow. Okay, so I talked about this slide. It's very gruesome. This is someone that had open wounds, and the soil underneath is actually the same as an open wound. So if you look at all these beautiful farmlands, usually they are as the bottom pictures. They're open lands. So our soil is actually bleeding. We have soil that's open is never good, because what we see here is no plants on our soil. My question is, why do we want to sustain this? Why do we want to have, if we look at sustainability, why do we want to keep this going? And it's the same in your garden. So for example, if we have a beautiful terrace made out of stones or concrete, or I have a terrace myself, so I'm also to blame. But if we have this going on, we actually have a soil that's covered in the wrong things. So that's just to give you an idea of what we're talking about today. I know this is quite heavy to take in from a beginning, but I like to start hard and then go easy on you guys. Because this is something that's a problem in the whole world. And it's important that we start with our gardens, because that's just a small bit, right? So how does healthy soil actually look like? And I want you to use the chat function right now. And we're gonna look at what you think healthy soil is. So if you wanna answer that in the chat function, I will look at the screen.
At the bottom in the middle.
Yes.
There's a chat. Yeah, when you click on it, you can just type in there.
Thank you so much. Lots of worms, Marian says. Very good. I like that answer. I love work. Dark and rich, says Laura Dickerson. Wonderful. You're such good students. I love it. All right, what else? What do we see in soil? Lush and green. Oh, I love that answer. Lush and green. Green is my favorite color, so that makes sense. Points for you, Ellie. All right. Any other things that we see in healthy soil? Structure, clumps. Good. Beth says structure and clumps. Very good, Beth. You've been paying attention in class. Very good. Anybody else? Any other answers? So I actually gave you a trick question. Depends on where you live. Oh, that's really interesting, Richard. Lots of worms, Ina says. For me, it's a live soil. Very good. So it's a trick question. I see how does a healthy soil look like? But actually, it's also how it smells like. A good soil has a very good kind of smell, a very earthy smell, very deep and dark. And if you look at your own soil, a good soil does look like a brownie cake. That's how good soil looks like. So now you know. How does it look like? Like brownie. If it's all nice and broken down, and if you would bite into your soil, it's like a nice lush bite, full of structure and layers and nice and fluffy. That's, well, in this brownie, there's worms in it. I don't know if you like to eat those. Very nutritious though. So if you look at that, I'd rather bite into a real brownie. Yes, definitely. And also a brownie smells really nice, right? You love the smell of a brownie. I love the smell of a really good soil. And then I'm going to ask you another question. So now we know how it should look like. I'm going to ask you this. What is wrong with this picture? So pop into the chat, what is wrong with this picture? And this is a tricky one. If you get this, so
Marjolaine, we can read the answer underneath.
Well, that's okay. Oh yeah, because I use, well, pooling water, very good. Oh, that's okay. So we see water is on top of the soil. It's not infiltrated. You have pools of water. And what we see in your gardens, that this, heart with no growth. Yeah, very good, Ellie. Oh, that's good. So you're not peeking on the answers. That's good. Water sitting on top. Yeah, very good. So this is actually a waste of our water resources. So I don't know if you want to think about it this way, but we have a lot of problems with our water. We don't have much water left, but we can fix this if we fix our soil. So that's a good thing, right? So if this water is not infiltrated in your soil and it just leaves on top, it just lays on top of your garden, then your plants and vegetables won't be as nice and juicy, and your soil will never turn to brownie. So we want brownie color. That's our goal for this year of this community. And if that water is just running off to neighbors that have a good soil or anywhere else, we just wash away all that goodness that comes from plants and from the earth and from everything else. So this is something that we don't want to see. And we really want all that water to just go right in. That's our goal. We always want that to happen. And my garden sometimes looks like this as well. So I don't have the perfect soil yet, but I've been building my soil for maybe 3 years now, and I really see improvement. And I'm going to teach you that today. But first, we need some background information so you understand why we want to do this. So this is, of course, a shocking picture for everyone. This is what ½ an inch of rain looks like per hour if we don't fix our soils. I think this, for me, I am a true animal lover. This for me is shocking. And we just accept. If we go back to our slide of the difference between sustainability, we just keep there what we want to sustain, but we don't build on top of it, what regenerative actually is. We will always accept that in some parts of the world, most part of the world now, cows are standing in a whole lot of water, or our crops are just washing away. We will have floods, we will have all nutrients washed out, we will have a lot of problems with our oceans, and it's only because something simple as not fixing our soil. I think that's pretty shocking. So we see here the difference between healthy soil and dust. And we see that healthy soil is indeed that luscious, nice brownie color, and dust is like this. And what happens with dust, it just blows away. And that's what we see in deserts, of course, and more parts of the world are having this. It just blows off, and then all nutrients are washed off, and they're all blowing off. Because if you pour water in sand, it just disappears, right? Or if it's in clay, it just stays on top. And now we know that our plants don't get as much water as we want to. And then we have to keep on watering, we have to keep on fixing problems if we don't do this. So this is an exercise for you guys this week, and I heard it's raining in your part of the world. So this is perfect. Rain is good. Rain is something that we want, right? I want you to look at your garden this week and really look at it. I want you to keep a journal, keep me pages of what's happening in your soil after a rainfall. This is important. What's happening? And again, my soil isn't perfect. Yours isn't either. And that's okay. But now we know, and now we're going to work on that. So note what happens with your soil after rainfall. Will the rain stay on top? Will it will just flush away? Will it infiltrate? And then take a timer if it's raining and time how long it takes until it infiltrates. So on most farmlands, it takes 45 minutes up to 2 hours before rain will infiltrate. Seriously. So where is all that rain going to? Well, we know it's going to our oceans. And we know that most farms still, and most gardens even, we still use a lot of pesticides and herbicides, and that all going to our oceans. So you can imagine what's happening with all these plants. Well, they need extra watering. And that's mostly, in most cases, it will be our clean drinking water. So that's something to think of. Okay, very briefly, why do plants matter in building healthy soil? And again, I want you to use the chat function here. I know we have some excellent gardeners here, so we all love plants in this community. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this room with me. So tell me why plants matter. Why do we talk about plants? Why is it important? Let me know. Any answer is good here. Very good, Ellie. They bring nitrogen to the soil. Our neighborhood has sandy soil. We will fix that, Ellie. Water is sitting on top. Okay, chemicals from the roots break down organic material. Good, 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 good. I like that. I like that answer very much. They bring nitrogen to the soil. Very good. So you don't have to add any extra nitrogen. Perfect. Okay, prevent erosion. Very good. They hold the soil from blowing away. Excellent. Ellie, you are good. You're on a roll, sister. All right, so they prevent erosion. Very good. Very good. Okay, anything else? They hold the soil from blowing away. I'm half Dutch, that's why. Excellent. We like that answer. You're very upfront. I like that. Of course, I like that. I'm the same. They hold the soil from blowing away. Okay, that's really good. I like that. I like these. I really like these answers. So this is a cool question as well. Can I do anything to not show the answers? Okay, so where does a tree come from, guys? Let me know. Where does a tree come from? It's such an interesting thing. And where does it come from? I don't know. Does it come from the ground? I don't know. Let me know. Seeds? Yeah. They shade the soil. Oh, very good, Marion. Shade the soil. From a seed or root cutting? All right. So I'm going to give you the answer. And it's, of course, it's next to this, so it's a little bit cheating, but that's okay. No worries. I like mistakes because I can always improve on this one. So plants are actually built from thin air. What? It's crazy, right? So they're actually built in a combination of all kinds of beautiful things that are in the air. Those build the plants. I mean, of course, it's a seed, but what does a seed need? Well, it needs water, but it also needs nutrients. Oh, that's such a hard word. So we need everything that's in the air to be taken up by the seed to become a plant. So you can say it's built from thin air. Isn't that like a really crazy idea? So just like us, we're built from thin air. And I really like this slide, but I'm really hard at explaining science. I'm being brutally honest here. We all know what photosynthesis means, right? So it's building a healthy plant. But we need photosynthesis in any case. Because why we need this, why we need plants in our soil, is because they form a cohesive relationship with all the microbes in the soil, like our worms, but also our really tiny small animals, all kinds of organisms. They need to exchange in order to take out CO2 from the air and give back into the air. And we actually need that kind of exchange to build a healthy soil. So if we don't have any plants, we don't have any healthy soil because we need this full circle to come through fruition. And well, that's not very important. Okay, of course it's important. So then we can say that healthy soil is also built from thin air because we need this exchange between plants, the air, water, everything that's in the soil. That's how we build our soil. And a healthy soil is full of these really nice things that we like as people as well. It's called our sugars. We need a lot of sugars in our soil to be really, really nice and juicy. And the plants like it as well. Plants make more sugar actually when they're in stress. That's why you get really juicy tomatoes. If you stress them up a little bit, they make a lot of sugars and they're more sweet. This is what I talked about, the big exchange. So we need plants in our soil to indeed break it down. If we plant a lot of roots in our full soil, we actually break down the soil by force. And that's how you get that really nice brownie kind of thing going on. But we also need those animals to really communicate with our plants. And if we don't do that, we don't have any healthy soil. Before I dive into how we can fix this, I want to show you the 5 principles of healthy soil. So I want you to think of this. Usually gardening, if we picture a gardener, we see him with a shovel, digging in, taking lots of soil out, really messing up the soil, right? That's what we think of gardening. Okay, if I start gardening, I will dig in beds, I will dig out soil and put on a healthy soil on top. That's what we think. We just replace the one with the other. But if we disturb our soil, imagine all these beautiful animals that are living in our soil that need this exchange between plants and the thin air. We are disturbing that whole process. We also need living roots in our soil because they make, the next slide is soil armor. If there are living roots in our system, our fields are always, and our gardens are always covered So we don't get that much heat in our soil. It will be cooler. It will be, there's more living things going on in our soil. And that's actually an armor to protect against the sun, but also an armor to protect against anything that's harmful to our soil. It's better to indeed, some plants can take out particles from the air that are harmful for us, and they can actually break it down and make a better soil for us, and therefore better food. Animal integration is something I really vouch for always. I always ask my VIP clients to at least integrate some chickens in their garden. That's like the minimal for me. If you don't do chickens, well, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So what animals do for you is they break up the soil even more to make it that really nice brownie lushness that we want. And their poop, so poop is perfect. We all want poop in our garden. Their poop is actually feeding our soil, feeding the plants, and that whole system will be better if you have some chickens or some pigs, or even better, because they just do it for you. And what we really want in our garden is, of course, biodiversity. The more you grow in your garden that's different, the better. So I don't want to see for my clients, and I mean, they won't get a report or anything. I'm not that kind of teacher, but I don't want to see a full yard full of potatoes, because it's not beneficial for all the pollinators that we need to attract in our environment to keep pests off. So if we want to attract bees, if we want to attract butterflies, if we want to attract all kinds of really good stuff in our soil, we need as much biodiversity as we can, like pack it in with all kinds of different things. I always say to my VIP clients, because they will wonder at a certain point, can I integrate some fruits in my garden? And I say, yes, order all the fruits that you can, as much fruits in your garden as possible, because they will attract birds, they will attract pollinators, they will attract hedgehogs, anything. So as soon as you see some fruits in the fall, just do it in. Pack it up. This is the last slide that I will show you before I will give you a recipe for your soil. So we are very used to seeing mildew, right? We are used to seeing sick plants in our garden. I talked about this briefly in the beginning. We're used to seeing lice. We're used to seeing all kinds of flies, cabbage flies, for example. We are used to seeing this. But I now think you understand that a healthy soil never works with the plants to scare off all these pests and diseases. And I'm going to show you an example from my own office. I have beautiful plants in my office. Like, everybody's always envy on calls when they see my plants. But a plant in a pot is never, ever a healthy plant. Ever. This is the same as a monkey in a zoo. And I love plants. I really love houseplants. This is the same. This is not healthy. Why? Why? I will open up the chat again. Why is this not healthy? After you hear me talk about everything about soil, why is this not healthy? Let me know in the chat. Roots are confined, very good. That's not the problem. Confined roots are fine. I don't mind. Yes, Ellie! Score! You get a sticker, Ellie. No living organisms in that soil. No chickens posing on it. Very good. There's no, well, there is a little bit of worm poop in this, but that's not enough. I need organisms in my soil and worms to really make this a healthy plant. So I am actually having monkeys in my office. How sad is that? Or birds in the cage. Still, I love them, but very good, Ellie. So if there are no healthy organisms in my soil, I will always fight off pests and diseases. Pooping, yeah, fine, good. Poop is always good. So I always will have problems with, it's called fern flies. That's very normal with houseplants. I will always have to introduce some kind of animal, nematodes, to fight off any diseases. I will have to accept that that's it. But if we look at this beautiful zucchini, we know that this is a healthy plant because it's in healthy soil. You also see a lot of biodiversity here. I just assume. And this is mildew that we're used to, but it's not healthy. All right. I want to give you a recipe for building healthy soil. I will, yep. Oh, I'm perfect on time. I'm not elaborating. That's very good. I hope you can see this. So these are layers in our soil that we need. A healthy soil consists of layers. And it's very small. I'm so sorry. Wait, let me stop screen sharing. How do I do this again? Pause share. Yeah, there we go. Stop share. Yeah. Okay, this is a lot better, right? So you see all these slides here. These are different layers in our soil. And especially for your community, it's very important that we start building a soil, right? It's in any part, but I know you have some problems with your soil in general. I read some sandy soil. Ina told me a little bit about her soil as well, that she really wants to restore it. So my recipe for the best soil is you start the first layer with any kind of gardening soil on top of your regular soil. No digging. No digging. On top of that, and this could be a whole lot, like a whole lot. You need at least, oh, I'm gonna do the centimeters, inches again. It's always very difficult. So
Centimeters is good here.
Oh yeah, it's Canada.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, luckily. I have clients in the US and this always messes me up, like foot and inches. I don't know. It's very difficult.
I think everybody knows centimeters here, right?
Yeah, I think so. So for a good root vegetable to grow, so for example, a carrot. If you want a carrot to grow, you need at least 40 centimeters of soil. Like that's the bare minimum for a good carrot, because a carrot goes all the way down, right? And we want that soil to break apart, but we don't want small Parisian carrots. We want nice big ones. We want to keep them for winter. So you need at least 40 centimeters of gardening soil on top of your regular soil. I cannot stress this enough. It should be on top of your gardening soil. No digging. No digging. On top of that, you will collect in fall, and there's no problem in Canada with this because there's a lot of trees, rotten leaves. Any stinky leaves that you can find, I want them on top of your soil. And I'm being really strict here, but otherwise I won't get this message across, because people think I'm crazy if I tell them this, but this is quite important. Rotten leaves. There's a lot of good stuff in rotten things. Then after that, I want a little bit of animal poop. And it can be horse manure. I have the best success with horse manure. But if you use horse manure that comes off a horse and not broken down in pellets, you know what I mean, like this little things that are dried horse manure. If you know horse farmers and you want to use their manure, that's perfect. That's the best you can get, but it should be 3 years old. And horse farmers know this because I work with horse farms. They know. So just ask, is it 3 years old? Oh, better question. how long is this laying here? And then you know the right answer. Ina knows a lot about psychology, so this works better. Okay, yeah, up on top of the grass and the goutweed. Yes, yes, posing to poop. Dog. Oh, that's a good one. I will talk about that. The easiest accessible manure here is sheep and cow. Perfect. Cow is perfect. Cow is perfect. Sheep are good too. We like sheep. We like sheep in our garden. So if you can, sheep, pig, cow, perfect. So that's good. Alpaca, I'm not so sure. I don't know what they eat. So are they grazers? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know anything. Details from where later. Yeah, perfect. So that's manure, but there is a really fundamental part in this recipe. It's like a good cake. We're baking a brownie, so it makes sense. First is some kind of fertilizer. I don't want you to use any fertilizer that's in your shed or in your house that's not from an animal. I don't know what it's called, but like chemical fertilizer. No. And if you think about sustainability and you think I'll just finish, I'm just generalizing here, but you can think, some gardeners think, but I have these things in my shed and I want to use that up because that's more sustainable, and they're usually chemicals. And then I pull up my brows like this very high, and you can do whatever you want with your garden, but our objection is to build healthy soil for healthy plants. In between your fertilizer and your compost is one of the last steps. There should be 2 weeks in between. 2 weeks. Why is that? We get a really nice chemical cocktail going on if we mix these in together at the same time. We don't want that to happen. That's not good for us. It's not good for our plants. And then on top, I know you're maybe familiar with mulching. I like to use anything that's available to me. I like to use grass clippings on the last layer. I like to use hay. I like to use straw. Anything that's dried out grass material is wonderful on top. And what that does, it armors your soil up even more, and it protects it from heat. So in summer, I know Canadian summers are brutal. They are so hot. And that is all burning in your plants, in your soil, and that's not good for our soil. So we want that covered up. If you don't have anything that's grass clippings or anything like that, the best option actually is, but I know some people are weirded out by this idea. The best option is to plant your vegetables and then sow everything that's bare. Now we know we don't want any bare soil. Sow it in with any legumes, anything that you can think of. So that's clovers, and that's our beans, that's peas. What else is in that family? Lupines. Anything from the legume family, and you hear me talk about this quite often because I'm obsessed with anything that's legume. They take out most nitrogen from the air and store it in our soil. From any family of plant families, they are the best at this job. And nitrogen is that part in our air that makes for the best plants. We need nitrogen. We need it in our soil. We need it in our plants. So if we look at this recipe, I think this is doable for everyone on any budget. Composting you can do yourself. Otherwise, you can just ask around for some compost. And so what if your yard is really big? I get this question a lot, so I'm gonna ask it for you. If your yard is really big, I want you to do it step by step. I'm teaching ranches in the US how to do this, and that's step by step. And I think anything is better than nothing. So if you just have 1 square meter of this process, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. Then you have one piece, and this is called a lasagna method. Then you just have one piece of your garden that's in balance with the rest of nature. Anything is better. And then by fall, you do another part, and by fall, you do another part. And then next year, you do another part of your yard. So don't overstress with this whole recipe that you have to do it all at once. Anything is better. And if you don't know what to do with the rest of the soil, what if you just have a square meter, for example? You sow legumes. You just sow the crap out of legumes in your whole garden. And then you have a lot of beans, but who cares? That's fine. Beans and clovers, they're all edible, so just sow it out. You can sow a lot of roots, root vegetables, so any beets, any carrots, turnips, you just sow them. Daikon is perfect for breaking up the rest of your soil if you only have a small piece. And to close this off, I want to get into your heads why this is important for your vegetable garden, because that's something that you want to do. You want to grow for the rest of your life out of your own garden. And why do I stress about soil for 4 to 5 minutes? Because soil makes our taste. Soil makes our taste. So whatever we put into our mouth, we put it in our body, and that's what makes health. That's what makes you healthy. So if we harvest crops that are from unhealthy soil, we will put unhealthy stuff to our bodies, and that will add up to the junk that's already going on in our bodies. That's
Can I add to that, Marjolein?
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. I was hoping for that.
Just from a nutrition point of view, I often hear from clients, but I'm eating healthy, I'm eating lots of vegetables. But actually, I did a whole program in my curriculum in holistic nutrition about the nutrient value, and there are lots of studies around that the average tomato, for instance, just to give a random example, that a tomato in the last 20 years has lost the majority of nutrient values. So for instance, an average tomato has about 23% less protein, has about 40% less vitamin A, about 20% less vitamin C. And so people think that they're eating healthy, but they're not getting the nutrients that they should be getting, just because the soil is really poor. And if you look at North America, the croplands, like where our nourishment is growing, and the topsoil has decreased from about 50 or 60 centimeters 100 years ago to about 15 centimeters of topsoil now. So we're just getting water that looks like a tomato or broccoli. Like even broccoli is another example, has lost about 50% of nutrient value in average. So it's not just growing vegetables, it starts with soil health. So you can eat all the vegetables you want, but if it's grown often at a mass farm, you really eat a lot of water, but a tiny bit of nutrients. And so it's really important. Topsoil or soil health is where it starts.
It's the number one in our healthy bodies, number one. And I see Marianne, very good comment. Organic is better, but organic farms don't take measures often on soil health. Let that sink in.
Yeah, this is why we have a CSA in our community. Like
yes,
several people who are here have
wonderful.
been part of it, of a really small local farmer who is farming according to permaculture principles,
Wonderful.
really sustainable, regenerative in your terminology. But there are a lot of bees, all the chickens are roaming free. It's a whole different concept. But
yes.
I agree with you, organic is not necessarily always better. No. It's less chemicals, but it doesn't mean that there are more nutrients.
No.
You do less of the bad stuff, but it doesn't mean that you do something good for your body.
No, and you
not
don't
necessarily.
No, and you don't do anything good for the earth, and that sounds so shocking to us. because we think that organic is the answer, but it's a sum of all parts that's important. And I think that's my closing statement is that. So I really want to open up Q&A, and I think how should I coordinate this? Just unmute or
anybody with a question can raise their hand.
oh yeah. Green. Yes. All right.
Hi, Marjolein.
Hi.
So question I have is when I put my garden to bed in the winter, problem is, of course, winters here are very cold, so very little grows, right? I basically put a bunch of shredded leaves on top and mix them in with some manure and just let it be. Now it's spring, and a lot of those leaves haven't actually composted. So they're lying there, and now what do I do if I want to sow carrots? I can't because there's leaves on top. So do I push them aside? Do I dig them under? What do I do? Dig them under, I'm guessing, is not the answer.
Very good. Thank you so much. That's very good. So I would do what I do. I have these very fancy tools, for example, pens and pencils. That's how I poke holes within the leaves or within my straw or anything. So you just poke a hole, put a seed in. That's the best method for getting your carrots right. One by one. We all need to learn a little bit of patience. I have -0 patience, like -10 maybe. Poke a hole, put a seed in, brush the leaves up, poke a hole, that's it. So less disturbance.
And one other question that came up here was aerating the lawn. If you have a lawn, which of course is a monoculture, but hey, we have it.
Okay.
Better
than nothing. Yes, you can. What I do twice a year, I poke holes in the soil to aerate my lawn. I do nothing else, but I also started sowing cover crops in my lawn. So I sowed this year some clovers, so the whole lawn, because I want to add to that, a lawn is better than nothing, right? So a lawn is already cover up, so that's armor for your soil. So just sow any lupines in between. And actually, my husband doesn't know the difference between a root vegetable and grass. So I tricked him by sowing a lot of beets within my grass. And he thinks it's a beautiful lawn, but there's actually beets growing, and that's better for your soil. So good question. So aerate, I would do that indeed.
And how do you do that? Just use a pitchfork, or what do you do?
Yeah, and then step by step. So no machinery, because machinery, of course, will disturb our soil more. I just use a pitchfork, stand on it, and a step further. And I hate the job. I really hate it. But I have a lawn anyway for now, so I might as well aerate it. Good question. Okay. All right. Is there? Yes, Ellie. Hi. Okay, wait.
You can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Hi, thank you, Marjolein. This is such a beautiful presentation. I really appreciate it. I was wondering about things from the kitchen going into my garden. So tea leaves, coffee grounds, eggshells. And if so, because we're talking about not breaking up the soil, do I just sprinkle it on the top and rub it in a little bit, or do I make a tea of it and water it in? How do I do that?
Oh, that's such a good question. I love this question. So anything in small steps and anything, so never too much. I always save all my eggs from my chickens, and then I break them down and I just set it on my countersill, and my husband thinks I'm crazy. That's fine. And then step by step, I just throw it in my garden, like really like that, with it just I just throw it in. And then weeks after, if I have orange peels are really good for balancing out your soil. It's also with our body, so it's also with our soil. Or anything from the citrus family, gets rid of acidity in your soil. That's what we want. I would just chop off a lot of peels. Again, it's on my countersill. Chop it up. I just throw it in my garden piece by piece, but I never dig it in. So that's something that we really have to think about. I never dig it in. I just throw it on top. Looks weird, but it's really good. Banana peels, the same. Bananas, of course, high in potassium. Good for your tomatoes. Your tomatoes will taste amazing with potassium. I just throw in peels. My garden looks like shit to anybody else, but I really have healthy soil and really amazing produce. So yeah, just step by step, but not everything all at once.
What about all the critters? Like,
Sorry?
I don't know, like I haven't thrown banana peels in my garden yet, but I'm not sure if our squirrels would love it. There are tons of squirrels around here, and raccoons and groundhogs and deer and coyotes. And so like if I throw it at all, would that attract more of those fun friends?
It's a really interesting question. I get this a lot. So any animals in your garden will prevent diseases, except for rats. Rats is something we don't want. So I want you to really break it down in really small pieces. I live in the Netherlands, so for me, it's fine to just throw something in my garden. But maybe as a whole society, we have to accept that we live in harmony with animals. And that means, yes, a healthy garden is full of birds and animals, and deer are interested. Deers is another topic. That's something I can teach about for a day, maybe, how to take off deers in your yard. But anything else, it balances out the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we just
that makes total sense.
Yeah, we just have to accept that some produce are grown for animals.
My dogs will love the squirrels.
All right, so another question of Maureen. Yes.
That's all very nice, and my wife is pointing fingers at me because I want to catch the rabbit that eats my entire vegetable crop.
That's exaggerated. Yes.
I had no vegetables last year because they were chomped right down to the ground.
Yeah.
All right, so what can you do about that?
No,
You can
maybe
eat the
put
deer,
something.
Eat the rabbit.
No,
You can eat the rabbit. I mean, that's no problem.
there must be some type of deterrent that we could put in. Not heavily chemical, but I'm talking about like certain flowers or
Good. I like that.
that type of thing. I've put branches out on top of my strawberries with straw underneath.
Good.
Maureen thought it was crazy, but the branches are a little bit pokey. It gets air in as well as the sun.
Good.
They don't seem to want to go in there so far.
That's really good what you're pointing out there. So we want to know our animals that we hate so much. We really want to get to know them. We want to see what they hate of smells. So I know a lot of animals hate the smell of soap, and they hate the smell of hair, human hair.
Yeah, I just cut him nice hair.
Yes. Yeah, so you put hair in your garden and it scares out, I see Aina laughing. It scares out the animals because they are really sensitive of smell. They hate the smell of garlics. So anything from the allium family, that's all our onions, our leeks, our spring onions, you just plant a border of it around your garden and it will protect your garden.
No, we have both three of those: chives, aluminium, and garlic. So we'll do it on the outside.
Yes, you just plant a whole border in, and it looks horrible. Like in gardening design, they think I'm crazy, but it works. So anything that's unstable, animals don't like unstable ground. So they feel insecure if there's, for example, sheet wire in your garden. They feel insecure stepping on it. It's off balance, must be dangerous. So just look into the animals that you hate so much and what they don't like. So flowers, you have a lot of flowers that smell weird to animals. I know salvias are a good thing, but you have to look at what rabbits hate because they they are nasty little buggers. So eating is not that bad.
I was told blood meal, but the rabbit just jumped over it. And when I saw that, I ran after it with a blood-curdling scream and never saw it since. So that's been the best deterrent yet.
Maybe you should stand in your garden day and
Yeah.
scare it off. So this is something I teach in every session.
I like the soap idea.
Yeah, soap is also, hair is good.
Yeah.
As long as my tomatoes don't taste like soap in the end. I'm good.
So you just hang it around your yard, blocks of soap. It really works. It scares up.
Really? Like you hang a block of soap?
Yes.
Of scarecrows.
But this is better than
But she's put
scarecrow.
hers in containers.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
That's cool.
I also put tomatoes in containers. I know you said that's not the best, but
well, it's better.
I
than-
do that to get the raccoons away from them. So I move them at night on a very high area, and then they come down in the day in the sun.
Yeah.
So that seems to work for me.
Yeah. So anything that's closer to your house will
Yes.
scare off animals. If we look at historian layouts of gardens, kitchen gardens used to be close to our house because it's easier to maintain, scares off animals. You walk by it anyway to the chicken coop in the back, and you will maintain your garden better.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thing I always find, that why are our modern gardens so different and so messed up? So I want to teach you something. It's a concept that I teach all my VIPs. What if we accept just the way things are for now? And what if we stop fighting against it, but get to know that thing that makes us so frustrated? So much easier. So much easier. All right, another question. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
You were talking about things that scare away pests. We're in the process of making a garden at a significant distance from our home. And the thought occurred to me, would like a little light that was linked to a motion sensor, would that help, or the animals just get used to it and it's not a, like animals at night, you know, foraging through, if a little light went on, would that startle them away?
Yes, it will. It will. So a little bit. It's a two-part answer. So animals are really smart. We have to accept that they're really smart. So we have to trick them into different measures. So I would say try all of these and keep a gardening journal and see what works for your, can I say, flock of animals? Pack of animals. So any rabbit pack is different than your neighbor's rabbit pack, for example, because they're used to your yard and they know all the things that's going on. So they will know, for example, there's that light again, we will wait. And then they will know, they will find their way around.
So they'll get habituated to it.
Yes, they will, because they're
Yeah.
super smart. So anything motion always works. So anything that's rotating, any dingly bells, any lights.
Spray.
Sorry?
A spray.
A spray works. Spray works with cats as well, so it also works with any kind of animals. But it has to be, so I want to challenge you to, I'm going to keep you on your feet because this is what works. So every season, I want you to change up everything. So change the location of your motion sensors, change the location of your rotating elements.
Wow.
That really works. That really works.
If you had, let's say, you said motion effects, the foragers are going to do it mostly at night, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your top 3 things for scaring them away in a small home garden?
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Off the top of your head.
I would say human hair, number 1. So be friends with a hairdresser because that will save your vegetables. Human hair, just if you can hang it on trees, on the hide of a deer, for example, because deers are not our best friends in the
See if
garden.
her hair's still in there.
I would say anything.
What did you now say? I
Sorry?
didn't hear.
I just caught my daughter's hair, gave her a haircut. I'm just going to see if I can still have it.
We
Oh
just
my
got
God.
Robin's hair too, so we have to see.
I've
Really?
got lots.
No.
Sell it to the highest bidder.
So you said,
Well, we have to
Marlene,
sacrifice our
Marlene,
hair
so you
for this.
said put the hair in a bag. So the
Well,
smell
I
can-
would tie it up on a string and then, or paste it on the, this is really weird. It sounds really like witchcraft and I really like that. So just paste it on your trees, hang it in the trees, sprinkle it on the borders of your garden, maybe on the outer borders that you don't see it and think, oh, that's that weird hair again.
Yeah.
Well, if you put it into a bag, a permeable bag, and hung it over your area, would that do it? Like the smell?
Dog hair.
Dog hair, yes.
Yeah, human hair is best. Human hair is really the trick. So
We
if
have a
you
huge supply of dog hair.
me too, but it doesn't work that well. I would say human hair is number one, because we're number one predators of most of these animals. I would say if you poke a lot of holes in it, you can try that, but I'm not quite sure if that will do the trick.
So our garden that we're making is a distance from a tree. It's adjacent to a fence.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can think of that works is putting it in a bag and attaching the bag to the fence, and there's little holes in the bag to let the smell out.
See
Is
if
that
that
what-
works.
What, pardon me?
See if that works.
You look a little bit dubious, like it doesn't sound like it'll work. Nothing. So that okay. How can I best make the fence the thing that holds human hair in a way that you think might work?
I would then go for like something cotton, because plastic keeps all smells out and in. So I would say a cotton bag. Maybe if you want to do the bag thing, I would try a cotton bag.
Well, you know those bags that you put swimming gear in, so that like your
Yes.
bathing suit,
Yes.
when you want to let it dry, like just filling that with
Yeah.
human hair and hanging it from the fence.
Yeah, I think that's way better than a plastic bag. I think that does the trick better. So you asked for a top 3. I would say number 2 from the point of my head. It's just I just gave a session in this, so it should be there. Number 2 is anything rotating. And then really also put it in a different place every 3 months, maybe. So
So
anything
one of those things you just plant in the ground that rotates with the
like
wind.
this, rotate like this. Anything that's like a clock with a little bit.
So if again we have a fence that adjoins the
Windmill thing.
area we're putting our thing, if we put streamers attached to the like
Put that in the middle.
it'll move in the wind.
Yes.
When the wind blows, it'll always be different.
Yes.
Okay.
But then also every season change the location of these streamers. So it should never.
But the thing is, the wind is always moving the streamers in different directions, so wouldn't no. Okay,
They will.
I
They
understand what
will.
you're saying.
Yeah, they will.
Just don't want them to get habituated to it.
Yes.
Okay.
So they are very smart, because they are in stress and they want food. Always, these kind of animals stress food. And the third thing is soap. So really soap. Soap is what works.
Okay, soap spread how
You
attached
can
to
do it in like a spray thingy. What's it called?
Spray bottle.
atomizer.
The bottle.
Spray bottle.
But you can also hang blocks of soap on nylon wires on your fence.
Okay, explain how is it the essence of it that it's puts not like is it distaste? Does it bother them? How does the
The
smell
smell.
bother them? And
The
what
smell.
part of the smell?
So it's called deodorant soap. And I don't know specific, like if you ask like for scientific breakdown of it, I don't know. But I know it's the smell component that they hate.
Of deodorant soap, not regular
Deodorant
soap.
soap. No, deodorant soap.
I've also heard that various urines from coyote or human or is a deterrent. Have you heard that at all, Marilyn?
No, I haven't heard about urine. Because then, so if a dog pees in your yard, that would fence them off, right? But it
No,
doesn't.
I think it's more like coyote or some other
Predator.
Predator. I
It
guess they
makes-
smell it. And
It
so
makes
they
sense, but I've never heard of it before.
they sell it here over in Canada. You can
Yeah.
actually buy it.
Yeah, I'm always wary of anything that's been sold to us. Not in that sense. I like selling. Selling is my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. But anything that has like, oh, this is the only thing that works, I'm not buying that. So you can try it out, and again, keep a journal, see if that
Mhm.
works. But I would combine it with anything rotating in human hair.
We tried it here, Linnell. We got a few years ago at Urban Nature. We got a whole box of dried coyote urine. Didn't work for us. I still have it. I have leftover coyote urine in the shed.
I'd
You can
really like
have
to
it.
know how they produce that stuff. What, do they have a barn with 100 coyotes?
Yes. milk the urine out.
Yeah, we read it too a few years ago, but it didn't work. So
No.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
What about putting chicken wire around your garden?
Also works, but
But what's the but?
so we have to understand animals. If they are in stress, and an animal in a neighborhood, like where people live, they are always in stress. They are in stress, they need food. So chicken wire, they will either dig under it and go for the food anyway, or they want to escape and dig under it, or they jump over, no matter how high the fence. So if it's a deer, it will jump over, like guarantee. But if the ground around the fencing is unstable
Or uneven?
or uneven,
Okay, yeah.
that scares them off, because they will know once and for all, oh, there's like some lava going on, just like little kids of 3-year-old, lava, and that's what the deer will think.
Yeah, chicken wire.
So the other thing you can do is if you build a fence, is you go under the ground and then go out with your chicken wire, so that like this. So when a rabbit digs, it actually hits the chicken wire underground
It
as well.
will be
But it doesn't
more
stop deer
scary.
from jumping in, of course.
Yeah, and
My
then
uncle has been very successful with electric wire.
Oh, come on.
well, it scares them off, but eventually, if they want the food, they will go through it.
You send them to the neighbors. Hi, Kimchi.
You
Thanks
just-
a lot.
Yeah.
All right, another question. We have 10 minutes.
Compost, I guess. Does compost ever go bad? We have some composting containers in the back that we've not touched for 4 years, but I looked at the bottom and there was some broken down material. Can we still use that?
Such a good question. So how does it smell like?
There's no real smell to it.
That's good. So we don't want our compost to smell ever. How does it look like?
It looks like soil.
Perfect. That's a really good indication. If it's brownie color, so we now know we are a fan of brownies. If it's brownie color, then use it. Wonderful
Okay.
question. But then I would like to add on it, if you want to start composting again, I would turn your heap. Is it heaps or bins?
It's like a heap within a bin. Is that
Wonderful. Yeah, that makes sense.
okay?
So if you can turn that from now on, if you can turn it at least once a month, so
Mhm.
just flip the bin over and then scoop it back in the bin, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Once a month, then you will have compost eventually. But make sure to turn it every month. Composting is a hard job.
Okay.
You have a wonderful compost laying there, so use it. Good.
Okay.
Wonderful question.
One more question. Radish, the easiest to grow vegetable, and I can't get it in this soil. I had a previous home where it was no problem. Here, all I get is leaves.
Yes.
And you think it's maybe a lot of nitrogen, but the
No.
soil isn't rich in nitrogen.
No, so the soil is not broken down enough, because a radish will only be a radish, just like any roots, when the soil is a little bit broken down. So we talked about that 40 centimeters. They need a little bit of soil to work through and become a vegetable. So first, I would try daikon first.
What is daikon? I've heard you mention it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it.
daikon
A
is
white root.
yeah, it's a root vegetable, but it's a form of radish, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit softer. But they will become really big. So it's
Mhm.
just a big radish, and
It's
they will
delicious.
pick up. Yeah, it's really, really. I like it better than the normal radishes.
Me too.
Okay, very good question. I like roots. Roots are my favorite. So Susan asked, I'm looking at the comments. Susan asked, what about buying wire netting at the bottom of a bed? So Susan, can you elaborate on that question a little bit? Then I can really understand. What about buying wire?
A while back, I think Maureen answered the question. Anyhow, if you're digging out to get a
Okay.
bed, put wire netting so the rabbits don't come up
Yeah.
from the bottom.
Yeah, that works.
No problem with the top. So
Yeah.
some kind of netting on top.
All right, good. So another question from you was, doesn't the city provide bulk compost? Oh, yeah, that depends on which country I teach in. So does it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So
But I don't believe they'll do it this year because they don't want the crowds
no.
for the COVID-19. So
Yeah.
they do dump it at the skating rink, and you come, first serve. But I don't think they'll do it unless they can regulate it one person at a time. But it creates a crowd. So.
That's not easy.
I talked to the city. I think they're saying you can go to the central depot where it's prepared and pick it up there.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I would opt in. So free is good, but free isn't always healthy. So usually, I don't teach a wonderful crowd like this. I teach people who don't know how to separate their recyclables sometimes. And then what we get in that kind of general compost, we get plastics in it and maybe some meat. We don't want any meat in our compost. We get too many onions. We get not a really good healthy mix for our soil. So if you want to do it fast, I always opt in for vermicompost. And vermicompost is composting with worms. And worms is the cheapest because you can get it on Kijiji. I think it's your free site, right? Kijiji? Yeah. All right. So Kijiji, you can get free composting worms. And it's nothing else than putting your kitchen scraps with the worms, and the worms will eat all the food, and then they will poop, and that poop is like the best compost you can ever get. Seriously, it's better than manure. It's better than anything else. And what it will brew is also a compost tea. It's the sap of all the eating and moist, and that sap is something you can use right away. So that's the quickest way to boost up your soil health.
What about that like bokashi composting, the anaerobic containers? Is that something? We have friends who do that.
I'm not a big fan of bokashi, I have to say. It takes a long time. And what I don't like about bokashi, so understand me well, any form of composting is good, right? But bokashi, you always need to buy all these really expensive things. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that that's regenerative or it's even sustainable. So I'm not a fan. No, but good question. Susan, yes.
Yes. You mentioned back a while ago about orange peels being really good and things of that sort. And the thought occurred to me, and there was also that concern raised about animals coming and foraging around. If you took something like orange peels or whatever it is you think is useful for the heap, and you take into mind that you don't necessarily want to do this bokashi and the other things, could you, for example, put the orange peels and other things that are useful in a blender, blend it up, and just pour it over the soil?
Yes. Yes, I really like that. Yes.
Okay. What common household kitchen items would be good to blend and leave on the soil?
So, do you make smoothies? Yes. Is that a good smoothie maker?
Yes.
Wonderful. That's your answer.
Okay, and what things would you put in it?
The
You mentioned before potato peels and all these things that normally be in a compost heap.
Yeah.
What
So-
things would you put in? What things would you not put in?
Good. So I would start with what don't you put in, because that's the way to compost. So you don't put in any meat. You don't put in, and that's not because I'm a vegetarian. It's not good for your compost. No meat, no kitchen, no food. So not prepared food, not cooked food, I mean. So no cooked potatoes, no sauces, no that kind of stuff. Let's see. So it's general compost.
No dairy.
No dairy. Very good. But I would put in eggshells. That's not the same. It's not the same. So no butter, no milk, no yogurt, no kefir. That's also something else. Doesn't matter.
Do you
nothing.
wash or rinse the eggshells before you use them? Sorry to interrupt. No, okay.
No, I don't like complicated, so I just throw them in.
So what happens to the eggshells if you just leave them on the soil? How long before they degrade enough to be useful?
So what I would do, I use a mortar and pestle to really ground up those eggshells.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So it would seem to me then things like raw potato peels. I know you said uncooked things, unmeats.
Yeah.
The eggshells. I'm just trying to think of things I readily have in volume. Potatoes, raw root things.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Banana peels.
Banana peels.
Coffee grinds.
Coffee
Is that
grinds.
Yeah.
Tea bags.
We have a lot of coffee grinds, apple cores, things like that.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's really good.
And to avoid the pest, just blend them up and pour it on the soil.
Yeah, so then there's one exception. Then you have to dig a little bit of a hole in your garden, and then cover it up a little bit so the animals cannot find it. So in general, animals smell really good, but also if they see food, they will also come. So I want to dig it in a little bit. So that's the only exception I'm digging. If you're not composting and you use fresh produce in your country, I have to add that, then you have to dig it in a little bit. Or
how far below the surface?
I would say, I have a ruler here. I always have to see these things.
I like the blending idea.
Yeah, it's really easy. I always blend. I like my worms a lot, so I blend them a smoothie every week. And it's my love in a blender because they eat it faster and then I get faster soil. I would say 10 centimeters.
Okay, so if I poke a hole down, pour it in, and then just cover it up, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then some grass clippings or straw or anything to cover it up.
Would you buy the worms? Like we have lots of worms in our soil, but I mean, would you just buy worms to put in your compost in the back?
Yeah. So
I didn't know you could do that. That's a good idea.
So when I lived in Canada, I got my worms for free from Kijiji. And they are special composting worms.
Oh, okay.
So that's a really good addition. So it's red wigglers or tiger worms. And
you use those in your compost barrel in the garden?
It could, well, not in Canada because you get minus 20 degrees.
Yeah.
So what I have and used to have in Canada, I just have 2 buckets on top of each other, stacked on top of each other with holes in the lid so that they can breathe a little bit because worms need a little bit of air. And then holes in the bottom of the first bucket. And then the juice will run through the first bucket into the second bucket. And the second bucket will make the composting tea right away. And then the first bucket will hold moist newspapers, so damp. And damp, we know damp that when you have a sponge, for example, and it's full of water, it's still too wet. But when we squeeze it out, that's the perfect moist balance that you want for your soil, but also for your newspapers. So newspapers first, then soil, and then put the worms in. and then put all your kitchen scraps on top, or make a smoothie.
You mentioned newspapers, and I've heard that mentioned before, and my wife and I have spoken about it. Could you, I may have missed it, but did you talk about using newspapers in a bed yet?
No, but it could be. So you can cover up your grass with cardboard, newspapers. So if you have those laying around, I would use those. But I find that cardboard is better to cover up and then put your lasagna. So we talked about the lasagna recipe, right? Put your lasagna recipe on top of the cardboard so it doesn't mix in with the grass. But since we're building healthy soil, it needs to be right away on top of your grass, because then everything will work together.
Well, we've just dug out a whole new bed. We've got the soil ready. So if we had an empty trench thing, like we've taken out the weeds and everything, but we thought about whether we should put newspaper or something in there before the soil goes down. You're saying on top of it?
Yes. Yeah.
And then covered by how much soil? Or
yeah, I would say if you can, if it's possible, I would do a minimum of 40 centimeters.
16 inches of soil on top.
Yeah, so that's half, right? Yeah. Yeah, if you can. Oh. If you don't have that, anything is better than nothing. So if you can lasagna everything with a little bit less, that's fine too.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I just want to make a comment that orange peel, because I've done this on the front of my lawn, where we now have a garden, but it deters dogs from peeing.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, or you could even use an orange oil that has to be pure, but I'm just saying it helps the dogs to stay away.
Oh, and cats?
I'm not sure about cats, but I certainly know it and it's more, environmentally friendly for the animal.
Thank you.
Marlene, the sense I got was that you were advocating the orange peel for the nutrient value, not for the
True.
deterrence, right?
True. Yeah.
No, I'm just adding a comment.
Yeah.
Harry.
Yep. All right. Closing statement.
Thank you so much, Marjolaine. Even, I've heard so many gems. I made so many comments, and I think this whole neighborhood will soon smell like fresh soap. And everybody will walk around with cut hair because all the hair will be in their veggie gardens. So thank you so much for joining us today and teaching us about soil health. For me, it was extremely helpful. I learned a lot, and I'm excited to start on our veggie gardens. Yeah.
Thank you, Marjolaine.
Thank you. It was really nice teaching you guys. A heart. Thank you. I like hearts. Thumbs up. Thank you so much, guys. So
Dewey.
Dewey.
We're not the only Dutch here, Marjolaine.
No.
That's Canada, right?
That's why we have green thumbs.
Good. So if you want to follow me on Facebook, that's just my name here in the screen. And then you can follow my gardening adventures and know more of what I do with people. And that's just this.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Marjolaine is always sharing some really great gems. Last week about lip balm recipes and other things. She's always sharing on Facebook. I really love seeing her posts. So yeah, just follow her if you're interested in learning more about gardening.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much. It was so fun to see
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.